Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. HBO has been turning Night of the Seven Kingdoms episodes into a secret backdoor Blackfyre Rebellion series, giving us direct flashbacks, characters in present day talking about it way more than they did during the original Game of Thrones series. Egg even has a whole song that he sings about it. Dunk personally experiences it as a child. Most of you also spotted that the sword that I've been using in a lot of my Night of the Seven Kingdoms episodes, House of the Dragon episodes, Game of Thrones videos the last couple of years is a book-accurate version of the Valyrian Blackfyre sword. It is central to the events of the Blackfyre rebellions. We've been learning so much more about it that it felt like it was time to do another big explainer for the first Blackfyre rebellion and the multiple ones that came later. On the show, when they talk about the Blackfyre Rebellion and the Blackfyre Pretenders, they're only referring to the first Blackfyre Rebellion. Technically, there were 5 of them. Only the first 4 are referred to as proper Blackfyre Rebellions that started with Daemon Blackfyre the first, and each subsequent one was led by one of his heirs. The last one is referred to as the War of the Nine Penny Kings, who were a band of 9 powerful merchants from the free cities trying to conquer Westeros. For the last remaining Blackfyre pretender, Meleys the first Blackfyre, Daemon Blackfyre the first descendant. In total, all the Blackfyre rebellions lasted for over a period of 64 years, starting just before the events of Night of the Seven Kingdoms and ending just after Aegon V Targaryen's death, young Egg on the show right now. All of them were a series of civil wars within the Targaryen family over the succession, just like on Dance of the Dragons during House of the Dragon, proving once again that the most dangerous thing for a Targaryen isn't the Night King or the White Walkers. Targaryens are more likely to be killed by other Targaryens. Just ask Daenerys and Jon Snow. On the show, we just saw a young Dunk scavenging the battlefield with his friend Rafe in the days right after the final battle of the first Blackfyre Rebellion. This was called the Battle of Redgrass Field. It took place right next to King's Landing. Most of the other middle-aged and older knights and lords at the tournament at Ashford fought during this or during one of the other battles in the rebellion when they were younger. Baelor and Maekar were heroes of the fight because they were instrumental in actually winning the battle. But even though it's another Targaryen civil war within the family, the reason why it started was very different than the circumstances of the Dance of the Dragons earlier in the timeline with Rhaenyra and Aegon II. This time, the beginnings of the Blackfyre Rebellion were way more salacious, and basically involved a bunch of Targaryens sleeping with a bunch of other Targaryens that they weren't supposed to sleep with. Per tradition, they do love keeping it in the family. They do love their sister-wiving. Yeah. It all started with Baelor the First, called Baelor the Blessed. He's the one who built the Great Sept that Cersei blew up during the original Game of Thrones series. He was something of a religious fanatic and refused to bed his sister wife Dana, dissolved their marriage, and locked his 3 sisters in the Maiden Vault of the Red Keep, one of the inner portions. It's right behind the Royal Sept. We actually saw Cersei in it during the Battle of Blackwater on the original show. The reason why he locked them up in the first place was so that he would not be tempted to bed them, trying to do away with his earthly desires. His sisters obviously hated this, and Dana, his former wife, the queen, was able to escape using secret passageways Maegor had built into the Red Keep to sleep with Baelor's cousin, Aegon IV. Her child with him was named Daemon Waters, but at the time she refused to say who the father was. Bastards born in the Crown Lands are called Waters, and because of this, Baelor took a hunger strike that eventually wound up killing him, and he died without heir because he refused to sleep with anyone, including his sister wife. Because he had no heirs, the Iron Throne passes to his uncle, Viserys II, Rhaenyra's younger son with Daemon, this little kid right here that we saw in House of the Dragon. He was already older at this point in the timeline, though, and died within a year of wearing the crown, passing it to his son, Aegon IV. He was the one that was called Aegon the Unworthy. He was the cousin of Baelor the Blessed, who was the son of Aegon III, Rhaenyra's older son with Daemon. So this is how Aegon IV was the cousin of Baelor the Blessed. The reason why he was called Aegon the Unworthy is because he was a real party animal, a really terrible king that would put Robert Baratheon to shame. By the time Aegon IV has taken the Iron Throne, he's already been legally wed to his sister wife Nerys and had a true-born heir, so is believed. There's a rumor about that, so we'll talk about it in a second. His name was Daeron, who becomes Daeron II. He's the father of Baelor, Maekar, and Egg's grandfather on Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Enough time has also gone by that Aegon has also fathered many other Targaryen bastards. There are so many of them, there are two tiers that the realm refers to. There's the great bastards who become critical figures during the Blackfyre rebellions, ones either acknowledged publicly or were common knowledge around the realm, starting with Daemon Waters, son of Aegon's cousin Dana, the former queen. Aegor Rivers, who was Bittersteel, his mother was Barba Bracken. He'll be more important for later seasons of Night of the Seven Kingdoms as well, too. Like, we'll actually meet him in future seasons of Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Brynden Rivers, aka Blood Raven, aka the Three-Eyed Raven, we'll also meet him in future seasons of Night of the Seven Kingdoms because he becomes pretty critical in later Blackfyre rebellions as well, too. He also has two sisters who were the daughters of Aegon IV named Maya and Gwenys. Their mother was Melissa Blackwood. Then there's Shira Seastar. Her mother was Sereni of Lys. And then the lesser ones are the ones that Aegon never either acknowledged publicly, even though he legitimized all of his bastards eventually. There were at least 9 other ones who just didn't get quite as involved as the other ones in the Blackfyre rebellions. When his first one, Daemon Waters, turns 12 years old, about the same age as young Egg during Night of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1, he wins a Squires tournament, and as a reward, Aegon gives him Aegon the Conqueror's Valyrian sword Blackfyre, which we've actually seen a couple times on House of the Dragon. Up to this point, it had been a symbol of the monarchy passed down from king to king after Aegon the Conqueror died, and everyone viewed the passing of the sword to Daemon as a sign that Aegon wanted him to eventually succeed him as the next king, not his supposed true-born son Daeron. Now remember, most also start to believe that Daeron was a bastard too. At age 12, when he's given the sword, Daemon takes the name Blackfyre for himself based on the sword's name. Years later, on his deathbed, Aegon IV legitimizes all of his many bastards, and it's by this act that Daemon is able to legally create House Blackfyre. He and the other more powerful sons in the royal bastards are called the Great Bastards. Daeron II takes the Iron Throne because the realm thinks that he's the true-born heir, at least right now. Daeron grants him a tract of land right next to King's Landing, also because Daeron wants to keep the royal bastards and Daemon as close as possible because he's worried that they will act against him at some point, which he was right on the money about. Over the subsequent years, Daemon's status around the realm grew. He was an amazing warrior. He looked just like Aegon the Conqueror. This is what his armor actually looks like. Also not a coincidence that it looks like Daemon's armor on House of the Dragon. He is named Daemon after that Daemon. Does it not seem like Targaryens always have the best armor? And at the same time Daeron II's status had begun to wither, rumors about him being a bastard spread. Daemon also began to hate his status as a bastard even though he was legitimized. So the whole rumor about Daeron II being a royal bastard also came from the idea that Aegon IV hated his sister wife Nerys, and people started to believe that Daeron might be the son of Aemon Targaryen, the younger son of Aegon IV, who was also called the Dragon Knight. There was another lord that publicly called Daeron out for this, but Prince Aemond, the Dragon Knight, defends Daeron's mother's honor by defeating this lord in trial by combat, so nobody publicly questioned him after this, but rumors are hard to kill, as they say during Game of Thrones.
Out of spite and pique, Aegon had seeded out into his own heir's claim to the throne.
Things around the realm continue to deteriorate, but there's no reference to the moment that Daeron actually decided to begin the Blackfyre Rebellion and try to claim the Iron Throne, why he started that first battle during the rebellion. Presumably, we'll get that in a future flashback at some point when we're talking about the second and third Blackfyre Rebellions on the show. The battles begin, the realm divides, not all of Aegon's bastards join Daemon's cause in House Blackfyre against Daeron's legitimate side of the family. Brynden Rivers, for example, is instrumental in ending the Blackfyre Rebellion, had declared for Daeron. During the last episode, a merchant tells young Dunk to take his Blackfyre leather elsewhere because they lost the war. Nobody wants to be associated with the Blackfyres anymore. At a certain point, early on during the rebellion, Daemon had started minting his own coins with the sigil of House Blackfyre and all of his other gear. If you couldn't tell, it's meant to be a dragon with 4 legs. The actual banner is a black dragon with 4 legs on red. The crown was a red dragon with 2 legs on black. There were a series of battles, but the first Blackfyre Rebellion only lasted for about a year, the final battle being Redgrass Field that we saw Dunk here scavenging over. The idea is that with Dunk's flashback is that the battle has just happened, which is why he's still finding someone who's still alive on the battlefield, so it's only been like 1 or 2 days after the battle ended. is during this battle, the Daemon Blackfyre I is killed by Brynden Rivers' archers called the Raven's Teeth because of his nickname Blood Raven. The reason why he was given the nickname Blood Raven is because of the birthmark on his face. It looks just like a raven, which obviously prophetic because he's a green seer that eventually becomes the three-eyed raven. But at least at this point earlier in history, he hasn't fully come into his powers yet, so he's mostly viewed as a normal person who probably has visions of the future that he can't quite explain, doesn't fully understand yet, and visions of the past as well. But after they kill Daemon I, his twin sons both pick up Blackfyre, the Valyrian sword, on the battlefield, trying to attempt to continue the fight, and are both quickly slain again by Raven's Teeth archers in rapid succession. When Blood Raven himself tries to take the Blackfyre sword from their bodies, Aegon Rivers, Bittersteel, takes out his eye and claims the sword for himself. Bringing it back around to Night of the Seven Kingdoms episodes, before Bittersteel can kill Blood Raven, he's saved by Baelor Targaryen and his brother Maekar, who perform a pincer attack on Daemon's remaining forces. That's why they're called the Hammer and the Anvil during Egg's song that he sings in a previous episode.
Blackfyre's not a true-born, he came from the wrong country, was in peril.
Baelor was the hammer attacking from one side, and Maekar was the anvil attacking from the other side, ending the battle with the Blackfyre forces who did wind up surviving escaping to Essos with Aegon Rivers to form the Golden Company based on his personal coat of arms, which was a red-winged horse dragon on a golden banner, and it was meant to be a fusion of the House Bracken's stallion sigil with the Targaryen dragon sigil because his mother was a Bracken. Their war cry becomes, "Beneath the gold, the bitter steel." Aegon Rivers' nickname was Bitter Steel. Then over the subsequent years, those Blackfyre survivors and the other people that took sides with them, the other lords that got exiled, get involved in 3 other Blackfyre rebellions that happen over the years. The only exception to this is that Aegon Rivers refused to support the second Blackfyre rebellion, which happened a couple years later and was led by Daemon Blackfyre's third son, Daemon II. We will actually see him, Daemon II Blackfyre, during the future of Night of the Seven Kingdoms on Season 3, just because he becomes very involved in that season. Like, we'll actually see the second Blackfyre Rebellion go down in the present day of the show. Then the third Blackfyre Rebellion is about 7 years after that. Aegon Rivers gets involved again with this one. Egg is a little bit older. He's in his early 20s, but he still hasn't become king yet. Then the fourth one is another couple years after that. And then there's a much bigger time jump with the fifth one, which winds up being the War of the Nine Penny Kings, which doesn't happen till much later in the timeline, a year after Egg's death, and his son Jaehaerys II has taken the Iron Throne. And also apropos, because I was just doing another video about the Game of Thrones prequel they're doing for Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark at the tourney of Harrenhal. So this final Blackfyre Rebellion, the War of the Nine Penny Kings, also happens when Rhaegar Targaryen is a baby and only 1 year old. So all the Blackfyre rebellions take place over a pretty big period in history, but most of them are bunched pretty close together, and some of them we will see in the present day of Night of the Seven Kingdoms. This is the main reason why HBO just didn't do a straight-up Blackfyre Rebellion TV show, because they're already doing it through Night of the Seven Kingdoms. During episode 6, the actual finale, there's a scene where Lionel Baratheon is talking to Dunk about a war coming. It's a reference to a number of different things, like a bunch of things that we know about in the future. Lionel Baratheon has his own small rebellion. There's a Robert's Rebellion that then winds up happening much later with Robert Baratheon. But Lionel Baratheon is also talking about the near-term subsequent Blackfyre rebellions, like the second and the third one that will be happening soon after this. So we will see how they tackle the present day of those events during future seasons. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below. Like I said, we will see more of the Blackfyre rebellions in future seasons of Night of the Seven Kingdoms in the present day, and Martin has written so much about it, I could do like a whole hour or two long video just about the aftermath of all the different rebellions. The really big reminder is that my Night of the Seven Kingdoms finale video will post on Sunday after they release it, and we're going to get Season 2 in 2027, so we're not going to wait that long to actually get Season 2 episodes, and House of the Dragon Season 3 episodes will start in June. So we have a lot of Game of Thrones coming in the next couple of years. Everybody click here for that finale video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other Game of Thrones, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and House of the Dragon episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.